Okay.
We mind well, don't we?
Ready? Okay. Welcome, everybody, to the January 12th meeting of the Commission on Aging Well. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And our first agenda item is the approval of our minutes from December. Everybody's had a chance to look at those from, Jill sent those to us. Are there any additions or corrections? If not,
I have one.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, what do you know?
Your smile was sheepish.
I have one really picky, minute change, and that is that on the second page for the Dane County has contracted with Little John's, who will be the new caterer. He's not the new caterer.
Oh, got it.
That is pretty picky.
I'm just glad to know somebody's reading the minutes.
What happened to spell check anyway?
I thought it too, decided to let it go.
Oh. In the interest of accuracy.
Well, and that is what gave rise to my earlier question, if they were in fact doing all of Dane County.
Oh, got it. Okay. I love it.
And
Well,
All right, there is proof you all read these minutes, so
There
thank
we
you.
go. Okay.
Okay.
So with that correction, do I hear a motion for approval?
Approve.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the minutes have been approved. We do not have any public appearances today, so we'll move on to number 4 of our agenda items. And the first one is our candidates for public office policy.
All right, so, with the political environment, I just wanted to take another look at what our candidate policy is as we move forward, how we welcome people into the building, what's acceptable and what's not. And, it's also a good policy to keep staff safe. There's been situations where the boundaries were overstepped, should I say, and there was a little bit of recourse for that. So I did run some of this by the city attorney who felt comfortable with it, but now I'm just looking for you guys' input. So happy to get any feedback.
I have a question, Jill. Are in the past, have candidates just shown up? Do they register? Do they let you know they're coming?
If they wanted to do like a public forum, they would have to let us know. We would have to reserve a room, which we can do. But if they just want to drop off literature or talk to people or even get signatures, they're welcome to come into the building. They just can't disturb ongoing programs. But, say, we've got people that just have coffee, Tuesdays, maybe there's 25 people in there that are just having coffee. They could approach them. If they said, I'm not interested, then they have to respect that. But they don't have to give me notice that they're there and saying anything because we're a public building.
Should there be some notice?
I don't think, because we're a public building, I can't tell them they can't come in. It would be just like yesterday, one of the housing assisted living came in, said hi, dropped off some flyers. That was it. It's sort of like that. But if they want an audience and they want attention, they would have to go through me or another staff to organize a forum. In the past, we used to invite them to do forums, but then I was given the message that, well, if you offer that to one candidate, you have to offer it to everybody. So it's not something I encourage because I don't want to reach out to every candidate and try to give them a speaking forum. We used to do a lot through the League of Women Voters, actually. We didn't do it. We've never moderated a forum, but the League of Women Voters would. And so we would actually be working through them to set up space and offer a presentation from candidates. So,
Does this also apply to not necessarily the candidate, but an advocate for the candidate?
Yeah, like a staffer. Yeah, or whomever, correct.
Or just a citizen who brings in a petition or something.
Right.
Okay.
We've had people come to and circulate papers, for signatures, and that hasn't been an issue.
Okay.
There's an issue if we introduce them, which is what happened years ago, and that got to be a little dicey. So all of a sudden, it looks like a staff might be endorsing a candidate by introducing them. So, it's a real fine line to cross one way or another. But I just, again, this is obviously for the fairness of candidates, but this is more about protecting staff, to make sure that, what we do is fair and equitable. And also, too, it doesn't appear as we're endorsing anyone. And I threw in the word incumbent. I was looking at other policies. I didn't have that before, but I did throw that in because, oftentimes, people that are serving in different legislative roles will come in. And so I felt like that seems to fit. I wasn't sure, so.
Did I hear you say that there was a reason that you brought this forward? Did something happen?
No, not recently, but something did happen in the past. And I just felt like with our political environment, I feel better if we have a strong policy. So nothing recently has happened. But again, I just felt like, we're going to have a big presidential election pretty soon. And there's just a lot of passion on both sides about this. And I just want to be fair and equitable and keep staff safe.
So for the incumbent office holders, does that mean that are you addressing a situation where someone would want to come in and, say, advocate for a pending bill or an action maybe before city council or state, federal, local? So an issue-driven versus election-driven
right. So
presentation.
I think I remember Parisi has come around, and I think there was some environmental topics being pushed through, or legislation, or just trying to gain support. And we set up a forum for him. We worked through his staffer and gave him a public forum. So, possibly if there's, say a city council person that is, a strong proponent or opponent of transportation, and we were going to do a big study or something, would we give them a platform to come and say, this is what the bill is, this is what we're looking for, this is why I like it, this is why I don't like it? I feel like that's safe. I don't feel like I would have to reach out to every city council person, and say, oh, he did this, so you should do that. I mean, I feel like it's their responsibility to do whatever kind of advocacy that they want to do around certain bills. I've never had really that happen when incumbents, except for the county exec. So
I can envision a situation where a candidate or incumbent comes in and is in the dining area, and there's 8 people at a table, and 4 of them are receptive to what this individual is talking about, and 4 of them don't want to have anything to do with it. I mean, how do you deal with that?
I think that, certainly if a candidate came in and I saw that candidate, I would, share this policy. And in terms of if that person, individual, was maybe being offensive to whomever, he could offer, I would suggest, offer to say, come on over to this table, because I don't want people just sharing information and people don't want to hear it. If they don't want to hear it, I'm not going to ask them to leave. I would ask the candidate to take whomever might be interested in listening to what this person has to say, he or she, to move to a different area. The dining room is open, it's public. They could sit in a different corner if it got that, uncomfortable.
And so that goes back to my earlier thought about if they're coming ahead of time, you can kind of prepare everybody that this individual's coming.
I just don't know how I would get the word out to every single candidate, every election, like, oh, you have to give me heads up. And then also, too, giving me heads up, I don't know, to me, it puts more responsibility on me or my staff, and, oh, we have to do this, and we have to make sure, you know what I mean? These are rules that lend themselves to people behaving. Unfortunately, that's not always the case, but respecting all points of view. And again, maybe as we get closer to this season, especially the presidential election, that this is shared in a newsletter, or that these are put around tables. If a candidate were to come in and just wanted to talk politics, drop off literature, if that makes you uncomfortable, you can ask that candidate to leave, and I'm looking at that big round table I hope there's different points of view. That's a good thing. You know, in my heart, I would hope people would just listen, and it's all, you know, not to get all hyped up about it. But indeed, if two of the people said, I'm not really interested in listening, then the rest of them respect that and they take that discussion somewhere else. I don't think it's going to be troublesome.
But it's good to have.
But I still want a policy that I can pull out when a candidate shows up, or any staff can, and then share it maybe at that moment, you know, because it's any staff, it doesn't have to be me, that we share it with everybody in the dining room. So, yeah.
Separate question, do we have a policy on facility use? So if an individual, political candidate or an advocate for any other, or just wants to use some space?
Sure. So if it fell under, you know, it's not dicey, but, you know, a rental, if this is a rental, we probably wouldn't, you know, an educational, informational presentation generally, you don't have to rent space. If, say, a private insurance company that wants to do Medicare supplements, I tend to stay away from that. They would go through rec, and they have, and they pay for a room, and then they do all their marketing and stuff. If a candidate, I guess I wouldn't. If it's informational and educational, I can reserve them a room. And I don't want to keep saying but if I feel like these issues are pertinent, people should have an opportunity to hear what people have to say, that's sort of part of our job as a senior center, to allow people to speak and be educated. You know, it's kind of like when the man came to talk about Putin, you know, that could have been very controversial. But to me, it was educational. So I don't really I do have a presenter policy, and I have to look back at that, and that's a good, you know, this is sort of my year to continue to look at old policies as times have changed, and some of these things that you think keep everybody safe and protected and feel right, they don't feel right anymore. I think we need to dig a little deeper in what we look at, and I think it also protects me from putting my own opinion on things, because obviously I do that. It's just who I am, and I do it a lot. And so I think things like this keep me in check, you know, because there's opposing views to mine. I can't believe that, but there is. And I want to respect that and also keep people educated about that. So back to your question, I don't even think I answered it. But in a nutshell, I feel like myself, maybe the commission, if I feel like it's a controversial type thing, I would bring it to you guys to say, is this something we should put under our umbrella, and feel that it's a good opportunity to educate, you know, participants, or is it something that really they should just pay and rent a room, you know? So you might have just got yourself into some work. Yeah. Yeah, you know, and again, it's a different world, and that's okay. It's just the world that we're in, and when it all comes down to it, I do want to be fair and equitable. I want to keep personal opinions out of what we're doing, or promoting or offering, because I want to be welcome to all, whether I agree or not.
Interesting challenge for a facility like the senior facility to be able to provide access to information in ways that our clients might not always have access to. So in this case, to have candidates in, what a great place for people to meet with a candidate.
Absolutely.
But what if only one candidate does that?
Right.
And it does give them the perception of the senior center supporting and advocating for that candidate.
Right. Well, and again, you know, where does the responsibility lie on that candidate? It's not up to me to make sure they're out doing whatever they need to do
any
or
other
going to.
candidates,
Absolutely. So that, I didn't like when we had discussed that, like, well, if one candidate calls you, you have to make sure you call, you invite all the other candidates that are running for the same office. And I was like, that's not on me.
No.
That's on them. That's not my issue. Where I do tend to when do I feel like it's a senior, older adult issue, voting? Like, I have seen how some of the legislation really impacts people that are homebound.
Yep.
So is that my opinion or is that a fact? And I think that's sort of the world we're living in. Is that opinion or is that fact? Well, that's fact, because I can prove how we can't, social workers can't find original birth certificates. Like, I have proof of that. So there are certain areas where, I probably would push back a little if somebody said, you know what, that's ridiculous. The senior center are talking about voting issues. I feel very differently because in my job is advocacy, and that's advocacy for everybody. But again, that could be viewed as, well, that's her opinion. But again, that's not an opinion. Those are facts. I can bring up several cases where, people don't have a voter ID or they don't have original birth certificate or, there's a lot of things that are factual. But I have to be careful about that too. Where does advocacy stop and just, my opinion come into play? So I guess you guys are my checks and balances. I would look to this board. So it is a tough situation. And again, it's different than it used to be. And I've experienced the change. And I think we've all seen the change. And so I want to be fair because I get very passionate about certain things, and that will lend me to not be equitable sometimes. So maybe this policy is just for me.
Is this,
Well, I think very helpful for your staff. I think
For sure.
staff policy, you just can't do these things.
Right, this
There's
is what
absolute
everybody can
clarity
do, this
around.
is what everybody can't do.
Yeah.
is this policy on record already, or is this something new that we're going to be doing?
This is something kind of new because it's been so long. We had a presenter policy, and years ago, the commission, they said, well, to us, a candidate is a presenter. It's kind of the same sort of rules. You can come in, you can't disturb. If you want a public forum, you have to go through the senior center. So I always just kind of fell back on that. But now I feel like we need a candidate policy. So I pulled that separate. And I look back at some of the commission notes around that because it got a little dicey way back a few years ago. And I remember going through the city attorney at that point, and these were the points that they made. It is a public building, just like the library. The library, you can't just walk in and do a presentation. The library is a little quieter, but we are a public building where people are welcome to come in at any time. And again, drop off literature, just like all the housing, home health, hospice, they all drop off literature. If I'm around or any staff is around, they'll say, this is who I am. So for a candidate or an incumbent, they would do the same thing, and then they might say, I'm just going to go introduce myself in the dining room. And I would say, okay.
I like this because our clients who are on the floor love to just talk about issues of the day. And if somebody comes in and sits down and joins in the conversation, if they're a candidate, they need to function in an appropriate manner. So I like the way you've got this. And every time I look at the newsletter, I think of meetings where, I don't want to use specific names, so how do I say this? An investment company, coffee with Fred
Yes.
of such and such investment company.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes to me that starts feeling like, you can get a free backpack or a free tote bag if you go to a pitch for a condo in Florida. or something.
It's funny, I've been thinking about that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think you're right. I think that sort of bled into, there are certain advertisers, and with the advertising, you get to have a presentation. If you pay as an advertiser, you get a public forum to do a presentation. But an ongoing thing is different, where that's what we can look back at in that sort of, is that a rental? Because I've been talking a lot about, we need to put a statement in our newsletter about endorsing any of our sponsors. That doesn't mean that we have vetted them, that we endorse them, that we, do I know some of them and would I recommend them? Personally, yeah. But as a city department, I think we're walking a fine line, and I agree with you on that. So I think that's something to look at.
So for the policy then, you're asking for an approval by the commission, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the policy?
I would add on for staff policy that the staff may not endorse any candidate or issue.
Oh, okay. But what if it's voting?
Well,
Or an
It's
issue,
not the
yeah,
issue
that
of-
directly applies to our population.
sorry?
Or if that were an issue, nutrition or,
Well, then you could choose the word policy or position. I think you don't want the staff to appear to be endorsing whatever issue the candidate is advocating for.
Oh, so their points of view or.
Correct.
Yeah, may not endorse any candidate platform.
Well, I had position, policy, or issue. I'm not sure which is the best choice of words, but policy doesn't really cover it either.
Right. I don't know, because because if a candidate was running on, no transportation, we don't need any transportation, I would, or if they said, yeah, we'd like to see more transportation. Maybe it's not, I would share those views, and I would have facts to back up why I think that so would that be endorsing their platform or their policy or?
Well, I think if a candidate is let's take, for example, an incumbent is coming in and has proposed a bill regarding rapid transit. And the staff were then to introduce, or if somebody were to let's say a citizen had attended that presentation and then came to the staff, what do you think? Asking for opinion or guidance on how to view that advocacy. Then I think the staff should not, should have an out, or should understand that it's not in their position description, or it's not their place to really endorse that particular point of view, that they shouldn't be encouraging people to agree with or disagree with whatever was presented.
Right.
And sometimes people will come to the staff looking for that reassurance.
Right.
How should I vote? How should I think about this? What do you think?
Right.
And it's putting the staff in a position that they really shouldn't be held to.
Right.
I think that I hear what you're saying, and I think that that's a separate issue other than candidates and incumbents. I think that in general, should our staff be endorsing issues in general, and independent of candidacy? So it might not really fit this policy about candidates, but rather maybe we have.
There's probably city policy, I bet.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if, and why would, personally, I think that people would like to hear the position of everybody on issues. And if I was thinking about I can't think of anything right offhand, but if there was an issue that I was concerned about becoming older, I would like to have Jill's input on that, because she's a professional, and I don't think that we should restrict our staff from making a policy that would restrict our staff from sharing their position about an issue.
Well, I don't think that. No, I think that that's a different situation than having an incumbent coming in, as this policy is talking about, advocating for a position or issue.
Right, I don't.
And I don't think that you want to put the staff in the middle of that, asking them to endorse or contradict what has been presented.
I think, say a candidate comes in about transportation, and they say, yeah, I think that the city needs more transportation, and somebody listened to that. And then they came to my office and said, I just listened to this spiel, and this candidate wants the city to invest more in transportation. What do you think? I would definitely have to say, well, based on facts, and I think that that's what we have to keep falling back on. Based on facts, our ridership is this, our ridership has grown this much. I, as a, department representing older adults, I personally feel like it would be good to have more transportation. So does that mean I'm endorsing that candidate? I'm endorsing that line, that train of thought, though, because I wouldn't say, well, I don't really know. I'm not going to endorse. I could, preface it by saying I'm not going to endorse this candidate, but I can tell you what I know about this issue, and you can figure it out. And again, they might say we want more transportation, but I don't. They don't. They want stricter voting rights. Well, there's different issues that they might have that I'm not going to endorse them on any level, but I could share the facts of what I know about an issue that they might have heard about. Does that make sense? Because that's advocacy, sort of.
Well, I think you're answering a question, but I think you have to be careful not to say that I support this issue or that issue, or just as you would not say I urge you to vote for candidate A over candidate B. Mm-hmm. I think there has to be some, if you're having a policy that includes both mm-hmm. candidates and incumbents, it seems to me that you need to address that candidate and the purpose of the incumbent's visit equally, and when you're addressing staff responsibilities.
Okay.
What if you were to say, and this may muddy the water up even more, but let me just throw this out, may not endorse any candidate or appear to advocate for a candidate's position on an issue beyond their own professional perspective. That gives... Yeah.
So the
not
professional
endorsing the candidate,
is
but
the
you're
facts.
opening up the opportunity for a staff member who has experience in this area, mm-hmm. getting back to the point of wanting to hear a perspective from a staff member, it gives them that opportunity to do that. Does that clarify or muddy?
I think it clarifies it. Let's take, for example, a healthcare or healthcare initiative, which would be really important to many of your clients, and they would ask a social worker their experience with about this particular issue. It's very politically fraught, but they do have the staff would have information that mm-hmm. they can share. Right. So I think sharing information is fine, mm-hmm. and giving them, sharing personal experience, personal knowledge, right. knowledge about a vendor or carrier or whatever.
A professional. We take the word personal. I like the word the professional because
right.
it takes my personal.
Right.
Sometimes
it's not
lead
right.
together.
Yeah.
But,
right. Yeah, and I know it's a fine line, but it seems to me that if you have as I said, the candidates and incumbents, mm-hmm. you sort of need to address where the bottom line is.
Well, and I like that because I think that Paul's statement lends itself to even more protection of staff by sharing, because, we're going to share. I have
course.
I have the facts, and so it would give us protection. But this is my personal, or my professional. This is my professional. It has nothing to do with my personal. But, I do have a lot of professional information.
Sure.
As particularly when it comes to legislation and even serving, in a legislative role for the statewide, Association of Senior Centers, I have numbers, I have facts, at least numbers are facts. And it takes, so I like that statement a lot. Did you write it down? I did. Oh, good.
Well, in one piece, I think that Paul's piece then helps you. I think you do run the risk if you make this too broad of being challenged by your staff about free speech issues.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But now narrowing that down to say you do have the ability to share what you have expertise in.
Right. Does that feel comfortable? Mm-hmm. Okay, so what is that, Paul?
Okay, staff policy may not endorse any candidate or appear to advocate for a candidate's position on an issue beyond their own professional perspective.
Okay, whatever you wrote down, you just give to me later.
I'll give it to you.
Okay, good. Okay.
Could I make a suggestion? What if you say knowledge instead of perspective?
Yes.
Knowledge.
Because that narrows it to facts.
Or expertise.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. That feels good. Okay. All right.
Well, what do you think? You want to vote on this?
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion for approval of the amended policy as we discussed?
I so move.
Oops. I didn't have my, okay. Do I hear a motion for approval of this amended policy?
I so move.
Seconded.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we've got a new policy.
Thank you. That feels really good. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, the next one is the 2023 Dane County contract.
I'm going to pass that down to Paul, too. I made copies, and then I forgot to bring her copies, so I'll share with you, Jim.
Sure.
Okay.
And Jill, the only thing that as I look at this, and we've got all this, we got additional monies over last year, but I'm wondering, is that additional money, in your mind, sufficient to cover the additional populace that we deal with as we absorb the town of Madison?
Well, I think that all focal points can use more money, particularly as numbers go up. This is actually even more money. So we're called a purchase of service provider for Dane County, and the county exec gave a 9% increase for wages, salaries. So, I put this into salaries. It goes into a formula, and that's what gets spit out. And again, that formula is based on, our population, our diversity, ages get different percentages and weights, income levels get different percentages and weights. So I think when I say this needs more funding, it needs more funding across the board for every focal point, because we're all sort of equally funded. Thank goodness that the city is very generous, because there are certainly focal points that don't have the support of their cities like we do. I think that Dane County should be putting more money into case management because there's a lot of providers there that are funded, but in the end, it seems like we still are dealing with, when they don't fit anywhere else, they come here. They're here anyway, but say, oftentimes we get a lot of denials from adult protective services because there's a lot of Chapter 8s and state ordinances and that kind of stuff where people don't fall into that category of receiving help. And so generally something like APS, until there's a huge crisis, they can't step in. You know, if this person has a lot of dementia and not making good decisions, but they're not declared incompetent, there's no guardianship, we have to see this through until they get to that crisis point. So, you know, on a county level, I continue to advocate to say, listen, when they don't fit anywhere else, when they're above the income limit for this, they can't get on Section 8, they can't, you know, apply for food share, they can't get any services from mental health, they all come back to the focal points. We're the ones that see them. So just overall, Dane County, it would be nice to see Dane County fund case management at a higher level. Now, saying that, Dane County is one of the few counties that fund anything at a local level. When you go outside of Dane County, you go to Milwaukee, it's all under their area agency on aging. They don't have local case managers, you know, out in the community. It's sort of like how we have the ADRC, the Adult Disability Resource Center. So the Adult Disability Resource Centers are funded by the state and federal monies, and they have a lot of workers at ADRCs, but it's all based on short-term case management. So 3 months or less, and then hopefully you connect these people with services that they need, but then you're done. Dane County's model is very unique. I think it's a wonderful model that gives money to the local municipalities, towns, you know, the local nonprofits to do the case management at the ground level. So I always feel very grateful that Dane County created this program years and years ago, but it's not enough and it's not keeping up with the rate of the needs of the older adult population. You go to Madison and, you know, we get a lot of calls from people that live maybe right on the border, you know, but they're in Madison, and they say, well, the wait list there is 3 weeks. I can't get any help, you know, and you just feel terrible. So I don't ever want to complain because I feel so lucky that the city funds us the way they do. But I think overall, case management could be funded, but again, it's non-mandated funds. So when you look at the nutrition money, that's federal funds. Now the county does kick in some money, but that's through your Older Americans Act. So that's why when we talk about reauthorizing the Older Americans Act, fighting for more money at the federal level, that's where a lot of that money comes from. That's a Title III. Like, they have to provide us money for meals. That's a federal legislation. We don't have to do case management. Now, the ADRC, they'll get funding, federal funding, but not us at the local level. So it's kind of like, you know, do you push it where Dane County says, you know, well, we can't afford this anymore. You know, we're going to have to contract this out, which would be asinine, and it would never even work. So I feel really wordy today. Sorry. So do we need more money? Yeah. Are we going to get much more? Probably not. But this is where when, you know, the county budget rolls around, and that's what I do, a lot of advocacy and go to public hearings, and the social workers went to a public hearing, and it made a difference. We got more money. We got more money, too, because we took on the town of Madison, so our population went up a little bit. You know, I'm really proud of, you know, we're looking back from 2018 at 67,000, you know, we're twice that, you know, so we're serving more people, and that's being reflected in the money that we're receiving. So that's, if it were still at the $60,000 level, I'd be like, this is crazy, we can't do this. So does that, and then the MA case management, just to remind you, that's what the county says you can bill us for. So that is federal funding. So they allow us to bill up to $16,000. So if we find that, oh my gosh, you know, we're gonna need way more money, we have to go to the county. They have to amend our budget to see if we can bill for more. So it doesn't mean we'll reach that. We generally reach what they allocated us. And you know, years ago it was at 8,000. So now we're double that. So we are seeing more lower income people. But what happens with MA case management, so say we have a lot of people that are on Family Care Wisconsin. They're the primary billing agency. So even though we might see those people every day, help them with foot care, sign them up for meals, we can't bill for those individuals. So we lose that that revenue by them being in a different program. But that's okay, as long as they're being served. So that's where I'm at. Okay.
Do you have any information on the numbers of people served? I mean, off the top of your head from 2018 to 2023, and I know you've got the town of Madison. I know there's the 9% bump, but then I'm trying to put all these numbers together because there are a lot of moving parts.
There is a lot of moving parts, and we have we're putting the numbers together for the annual report. That will be done next month. If it's just in terms of, Mandy just sent something forward about the meals, where there was 12,000. I think before COVID, we were up quite a bit around COVID, but we might be at 12,000 meals. Case management, we lump, we have information and assistance, and then we have case management. And the county says for case management, that means that somebody has to receive 2 services or more. So if somebody comes in just for a Medicare D plan or just needs help with long-term care insurance, where do we go? Or durable medical equipment, it's a one and done. That's more of an INA. And then if somebody comes in, obviously, and says, I need transportation and, I don't have housing, and, those are all kind of case management. I want to say for case management, we served over 400 people all together, for INA. I don't want to throw out wrong numbers. I don't know. But I'll have it for next month for sure. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's time to approve the county budget, county contract. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I so move.
It's like, we got to take this money.
Somebody.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. County contract is approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Senior Center Friends, who's going to present today?
I guess I am.
Gail.
You want to introduce yourself?
I'm Gail Schauer. I'm on the board of the Senior Center Friends. And I'm here to tell you about what happened at the board meeting in the last month or so. Since the death of the Friends president, Bob Hillner, Vice President Jerry Kelly has accepted a move to the presidency of the Friends Board as indicated in our bylaws. And there has been an approval also by the board that was obtained to fund a contract to draw up a schematic and estimate of the new patio for the RFP so that we can get this patio project moving more quickly. And a new web page is being developed for the Friends by a board member, and we had some input on that. Other payments for the month were client special needs identified by the social worker for $194.30, newspaper subscription for $30.80, emergency meals for the snow day that we had on December 22nd, non-perishables were purchased for $246.63. And then we have 2 important dates coming up. Wednesday, January 25th at 1 p.m. is the travel show, and Mayflower Tour representative will be here with details and videos on the 2023 tours that are scheduled. And everyone is invited to come, and you don't have to be a member of the Senior Center, anybody can come. And also Sunday, April 23rd, I'm happy to announce we will be bringing back the popular pancake breakfast fundraiser. And we hope all of you will help us out with some manpower in that, for that fundraiser. Leslie Hall is the chairperson, and a committee has been formed. That's all.
Nice.
When is the pancake breakfast?
Sunday, April 23rd.
Any other questions for Gail?
I just want to say there's a lot of new faces on the Friends, and it's nice to see everybody stepping up and just engaging new folks. It's a good group. It has a good dynamics in there. So, and Jerry thus far has done an amazing job stepping up.
Are we still in need of an additional member then to
We are down a couple members yet, and if there's anyone interested, we do have some board positions available, yes.
Okay. Okay.
There's a lot of people that are newly retired, so if anyone's has the itch to get involved and not just sit home and watch Netflix all day, you know, we have plenty of things to do, so.
Okay, director's report.
All right. January newsletter is out. Dave already reported, I think we're up to 900 people that get this dumped in their email, which is amazing. I think that's very exciting, which is, I think, why numbers are up. You know, the more we move towards sort of electronic marketing, we're definitely hitting a different market that way, our audience, but we certainly don't want to leave behind those that aren't online. So just trying to strike that balance. Lots going on, new programs, tax help come in, always one of our most popular programs. It's free for simple taxes through AARP returns, and people are already calling. We won't have dates until early February, but that will fill up quickly. And usually I think we serve about 100 people with that, February and March. We started line dancing, and we had 31 people in the class and a wait list and a filling up for February, so that's super popular. Cardio drumming filled up. The women's group, how many people were there yesterday? Did you count? They moved to the dining room because they outgrew the Swan Creek room, and this was not conducive, but anyway, it was a nice group. How'd your men's group go? Did that new guy show up?
He did.
Oh, good. See? There's new people everywhere. There's so many new... Oh, I know who they are. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, so anyway, things just feel good. Everything seems to be, it's just a nice energy. Let's see, annual report I talked about, so we're crunching a lot of numbers, and while we're doing these numbers, we're just really focusing in on data collection with the plan for growth. Linda and Barb and Nan are helping us really just kind of hone in what kind of data do we need to be collecting moving forward. It's one of our weaker spots, data collection, so hoping to improve on that. The city had some extra ARPA funding, so they asked all departments to put forward any projects that they might like to see happen. And so I put forward upgrading our sound system in the dining room. And when we remodeled, they put the hookups for a ceiling projector in there. We just never carried through when we ran out of money. So I put that project through, which is no small project. I mean, if we really did revamp the sound system and put a nice projector in, working with Fact TV, I think it was close to 20 grand. But it's really needed as we move towards everybody doing, things electronically and just having the ease of those hookups versus rolling in AV carts and stuff. And then I did put the same for the Fitchburg room up here, so we can start to use that more, and it just be easier to use for presenters. And then the other huge project I put in there, which probably is just more of a conversation starter, is a remodel of the kitchen, knocking out maybe a wall or two, having some more space, and turning it into a commercial kitchen because we're just a caterer's kitchen. I tried to get it when we remodeled. We just didn't have enough money, but I should have pushed harder because that's when we should have made that a commercial kitchen. It just gives us more freedom to do things legally. And also, too, looking at, the changing needs of our nutrition program. It would be nice to, I know in Stoughton, they have they cook there once a month, I think, and do a home cooked meal and stuff. So anyway, as meals go up, and hopefully they'll continue and more people come in and home delivered. Jim can attest to the bags all over in the corner and we lay it all out and having to package it all up. It would be nice if we had more space in there. So if I really didn't even know how to put a price on that, $300,000 to knock out a wall, and I know what equipment costs, but so anyway, we'll see if there's a conversation about that moving forward. Just an update on the hotels to housing clients. We're receiving information that a lot of their leases are ending, and therefore they will have to find alternative housing. Many people are at the High Line. We have people in other apartments, but there's the majority of people we're working with are at the High Line, so we're trying to figure out what these folks can do. Because again, the plan was they would get assistance with finding a job, and then they'd be able to help supplement their income, but that's not really realistic for many of the clients that we're working with. So just trying to figure out, what's an exit plan for this. This program is great, and they paid for housing. And now when the money's gone, if these people were homeless before, and what are they going to do now? So it's really bothersome to me. There's not a lot the city can do. So just kind of reaching out to the providers that were paid to case manage them, and then work with the county to say, what's your backup plan here? Because they just circle right back to being homeless. Because when you're low income, generally you go on a Section 8 waiting list, which doesn't ever open, like 20 years. There's a fast track that's like 6. So anyway, it's just really strange. So we'll see. We just got notice last week about that. We're seeing, go ahead.
How many clients are you talking?
We're probably, coming into the center, we have about 4, but we know of more that don't come to the center that the case managers work with. Some of the clients that are losing their leases are not being renewed due to violations. There is some personal responsibility. We're talking 55 and older. We're not everybody is, 85 and can't work. So there are some issues and some choices being made by certain clients that, that kind of non-renewal makes sense, whether it's hotels to housing or anything else. If you're doing things that are illegal, causing other people harm, I personally wouldn't want the management company to keep people like that in an apartment. Because it's not conducive, it's not a nice environment for everybody else. So there's some folks that are being non-renewed that are in this program, but it's based on violations but they still need help too. So again, hoping we can have a smooth transition, and we'll see where it goes. I don't have any updates on transportation. I know that they had put extra money for another study. I just kind of put this on the back burner right now. The new Public Works Director starts at the end of this month. I don't think we have a transportation engineer yet. And so this one's just on hold right now. But, by the end of 2023, we'll lose that second bus. And Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, they are bringing over between 16, 17, up to 19 people. As low as 16, but up to 19 people on the bus that need transportation. So we have 2 buses so they can get here at a decent time. That second bus was paid with ARPA funds, and that's to end at the end of this year. So how the county is going to handle this, I don't really know. So we'll see. We do have our new caterer, Little John's. It's been a bumpy start. It's been 2 weeks now. And, it's a big contract to take on. There's obviously some growing pains that they're feeling at Little John's. And most recently, it looks like they're going to lose their kitchen that they're leasing in Verona. So we have a meeting this afternoon just to keep updated about that. So hopefully we'll just continue on with them or see what the county has as a backup. I don't know if they can fall back on Consolidated. That was our previous meal provider. And because they are a county-funded department, do they have the leverage to say you need to pick this up until we can figure this out? So I should have more today. Just is talking about the Plan for Growth Committee that we meet every month. We're doing a survey, a participant survey, to collect that data we talked about, the diversity, income, not income, but what people are interested in. Just a way to figure out who are our people, how are we serving them, how can we serve them better. So hope to get that out probably next month. And let's see. I think that's it. Oh, the patio. Yeah, thank you. It's right there. So the patio is great. So, we we put our goal at 50,000. We raised 54,800, and that does include the $10,000 from the Kaiser Ford Foundation. That was just a huge, wonderful gift. But, you know, a few other businesses maybe gave us 2,500 and 1,000, but the majority of that money came from folks like you, and just it's amazing the response that we got for this, and money is still trickling in here and there. So because we made all our money, Paul Woodard is on the project. He was the former Public Works Director, and now he's just being independently contracted by the city until the new Public Works guy gets rolling. But anyway, he's taken on the project. He reached out to me a couple weeks ago and said, listen, you know, this patio project now there's two RFPs. There's one, now we really need to pay someone to give us a schematic design. What's it going to look like? What do we need? You know, what's the electricity? What's the construction going to cost? That kind of stuff. We need survey the land and stuff like that. So we have to do that first before we can put the construction bids out. And the Friends had graciously offered up to $10,000 to help fund the patio, which is not included in what we raised. And so I was given the okay to approach the Friends to pay for this proposal to do the schematic design and the construction cost without putting it through the city process, because that's a really long process and you have to put it out for bid and everything. So the Friends are paying for the proposal of a company whose name escapes me right now to start this right now. So they have started. They're working with Paul, and Jerry is very knowledgeable and has brought up a lot of stuff, things that I hadn't thought about. So we're moving forward on the schematic design. We hope to have that finished by February, mid to late February. They'll be working with Promega along the way, so they approve that design, and we hope to get the construction bids out sometime in March. So very exciting. And thanks to the Friends, because this really would have delayed. I didn't think about 2 RFPs having to go through the city process. So not having to do that probably saved us 3 months. So thanks to the Friends. Yeah.
Okay, any questions for Jill? Okay, on the agenda, I don't have down our next our next meeting.
Well,
in February.
I don't have a calendar. When is our next meeting? Say.
Probably Valentine's Day.
No, it's before that. I bet it's like the 10th.
The first or the second?
The 2nd.
That'd be
The 9th?
Yep.
Thank you. February 9th. Thank you,
February
Jim.
9th.
Yep.
Okay. Well, if there are no other things, do I hear a motion for adjournment?
I would move to adjourn.
I second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Yay!
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you all.
Have a nice day.